really excited for today's conversation with Pat Harbeson, one of our good friends in Arizona. So we love what he's done out here. Current PLL midfielder with the Redwoods. We were just chatting a little bit about what this experience looks like. And to catch everyone up to speed, we love lacrosse. I'm so passionate about this sport, and I know we have gained really valuable skills as individuals and leaders. And the purpose of the Lacrosse Leadership Institute is to share this with everyone, get you motivated, make sure that you're looking at what you get out of lacrosse beyond just the sport, but in your real life. And Pat does a great job of exemplifying what all you can accomplish with this sport. So Pat, thank you so much for joining me today. And I want to start by asking how you got involved with lacrosse and tell us a little bit more about that story.
For sure. Yeah, thanks for having me on here. Happy to be an ambassador for the sport and, try to help grow the game in Arizona. My lacrosse background, a little different than others, but I started when I was in 5th grade, and I really just wanted to play football. Like, that's all I wanted to do growing up. I wanted to play football. I wanted to hit people. I love contact. I love the contact sports. And in soccer and basketball, I was constantly fouling out of the game, and I really just loved football, and I wanted to play. And my parents, thought maybe it was a little bit too much to put me into football right away, so they told me about lacrosse. I had no idea what it was. My dad, who didn't really know much about the sport, kind of lied to me and just mentioned, "Oh, it's just like football. You got to wear helmets, pads," and I was like, "That's all I needed to hear." So I was excited. And it's funny, the first practice I went to, I wore a Mark Brunell Jacksonville Jaguars football jersey to practice, and I'm looking around like, this is not football. And I was like, 2, like, why is everyone wearing these pennies and I'm in like this football jersey? So I felt like the odd man out. I was super embarrassed, but that's kind of how I got my start into the sport. It was kind of being somewhat tricked into it. And, I've been blessed to meet a ton of people, play on great teams. The sport has brought so much to me that, I'm happy to kind of give back wherever I can to the game.
Awesome, Pat. That's funny to hear that you didn't really know what to expect with lacrosse, but it sounds like you got in for the sport very early. What's your pinnacle or favorite lacrosse moment so far?
I've been fortunate enough to play on some great teams, and kind of just give a little rundown. I've played on, I guess I'll start from most recent and then backtrack, but in 2017, I played in the Major League Lacrosse League, and our team, the Ohio Machine, which had players like Tom Schreiber, Kyle Harrison, Kyle Bernlohr, Scotty Rogers, a ton of big names on the team. We were fortunate enough to win the championship that year. It was an unbelievable experience. The year before that, I wasn't actually on the team, but they lost it in the championship. And then 2017, we won it. So that was unbelievable. 2011, I was on the national championship team for the University of Virginia, which was a crazy ride. We came into the season, I think preseason ranked number 1, went on a big losing streak, lost our 2 best players that ended up getting kicked off the team. And we rallied together and won it, hosted the trophy. That's another memory that I'll never forget. And to go back in high school, I was fortunate to win 2 championships with my high school, DeMatha Catholic High School, right outside of DC. Played with some great players. I think the first championship that we won, I was a sophomore. We had 9 seniors go play Division I lacrosse, I think it was. So fortunate enough to be part of like a winning atmosphere in high school. But the lacrosse memory that stands out the most to me, and one that I cherish, I think, the most, is my 8th grade state championship with when I grew up in Annapolis, Maryland, and it was just comprised with a bunch of gritty players. And the reason why it's the most special, I think, the first and foremost was my coach, Coach Bob Bohannon. Played an integral part in my maturation as a player on and off the field. Taught me so much about the game. And what he always used to say is, like, you treat the game with respect, the game will treat you, with respect as well. And I think I'm like a living true testament to it, because, I treated the game right. I never cheated any corners, and it's brought me to so many special places. But we were fortunate enough to win the state championship And for those that aren't familiar with like Maryland, the way that youth lacrosse was set up back in the day was there's two hot pockets. There's Annapolis and Baltimore, and the winner of the youth from Annapolis would play the winner of the youth in Baltimore, and the Annapolis youth would never win. And we were fortunate enough to win, and I was fortunate enough to hit the game-winning shot with like 1 second left on the clock. And that's just such a special moment to me because it was like that defining moment in my young career that like showed that anything's possible, that I can achieve anything, and kind of brought a little bit of swagger and a mindset that I can be good at this sport if I continue to work hard. So I think that stands out the most to me.
That's amazing. So you hit the game winner 8th grade year to win your first championship. You went on to win the national championship at the Division I level, won a professional championship. It sounds like your coach, who was very first impact to you, had a big role. What other skills would you say played into your success at this point?
Yeah, I just think like sport in general and lacrosse too, helps, pave the way for young people. I would say I was fortunate enough to again have that coach at such a young age, but also having a high school that's super demanding, that taught a lot of things like time management, discipline. I just remember distinctly, like if you didn't get good grades, you weren't allowed to play, and that was a staple in my household too. Credit to my parents. But kind of going back to the youth aspect is like never cheat the game, and what I mean by that is if you're supposed to touch the line, you better be sure to touch that line and continue to run hard. Cheating the game, making sure that you're getting your reps with both hands, because at some point in the game you're going to need to put the stick in your offhand. So I think sport in general again teaches so much with that work. I guess now I'm 28 now, but work-life balance and time management, making sure you get what needs to be done so you can go ahead and play. And that's kind of where I am right now. I'm playing in the bubble here in Utah with the PLL, and if I didn't put in extra work with my real day job, I wouldn't be able to be out here playing. And I made sure that I lined up everything that I needed to get done. And I'm fortunate enough to take PTO, but it wouldn't have been possible if I didn't kind of work hard during those weeks and months leading up to this championship series here with the Premier Lacrosse League.
And what comes up for me, and you said it earlier when you talked about your 8th grade team, that you had a really gritty team. I don't know if everyone attests success to grit, but I think those that are successful do attest it to grit, because it's putting your head down, not cheating the game, not cheating anything that you do. What's it like right now in the bubble right now? How is this championship series?
It's awesome. I mean, there's 20, I don't know. Let's call it 100. I think it's 154 of the best players in the world here. And kind of, I watched the Whipsnakes play today, and they're obviously undefeated right now, and arguably the best team because they're undefeated. I still think the Redwoods are going to make a run here in the playoffs. But yeah, but you just look at all these teams and the amount of talent they have, from top to bottom. A lot of guys that are former All-Americans in college, former All-Pros. Again, from top to bottom, huge big names that are capable of kind of stealing the show at any moment. And I just think it's surreal that it's so cool that we're here. Obviously, unfortunately, due to COVID, it canceled the seasons out in Arizona and all over the country, college and high school. But for Mike and Paul Rabel, who were able to find a way to put this together, and our medical staff who's done a great job making sure everyone's taken care of. It's super special to be here playing in Utah and being on TV and fighting and hopefully able to come out on top.
That is so cool. Well, definitely cheering you guys on. Let's go Woods.
That's right.
And Pat, to get to where you are right now, I know it sounds like you've been on championship teams, started in middle school, high school. You're out in Virginia, D.C. area, and you're able to land a role with Virginia. How did that happen? Especially since we're coaching youth in Arizona, how can we prepare our guys to be able to make that transition and live out their dreams like you have?
Yeah, I think there's a few things, and I think, and I tell a lot of coaches these days, I think I think there's two things that come to mind. One is I think a lot of kids don't or are afraid to put a goal out there. And I was never afraid to. I remember, writing down goals every single season from youth to high school to college on what I wanted to accomplish personally and what I wanted to accomplish collectively as a team. And, as a team, it was always win the championship. Collectively, there's various stuff that I wanted to accomplish, but I think first and foremost, you have to look yourself in the mirror and say, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to get to, whether it's, to go play for the University of Virginia, to go play Division III, the MCLA, or simply just to make varsity at your local high school. I think you need to set a goal, and in doing so, it's going to hold yourself accountable, and it's going to, raise the bar there. The second thing that I think the youth has really lost is their sense of imagination. And what I mean by that is I remember, every single time I trained from when I first picked up the stick, till to today is imagining whether I'm going up against a defender, imagining how the defense is going to slide to me, imagining how I'm going to, create these scenarios in my head. I remember I used to play this game. My sister and I, made it up. It was called like the 5-4-3-2-1 game. And it started off in basketball and then it, relayed to lacrosse, but we put the ball on our stick, or in basketball, find ourselves in a certain part of the court or backyard, and we would just count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and imagine hitting a game-winning shot, or imagine hitting a shot with 4 seconds left in the quarter. And I just think a lot of kids have lost their imagination, where they go out and just shoot for 2 hours, but are they really getting the right repetitions in? So that imagination and goal setting, I think, is super important. And I know it might sound corny with the imagination, but I truly believe in it. I still do it today. When I was like in 8th grade, I would always imagine myself going up against the best defender, who was at the time a guy that ended up going to play in Harvard. But I would just pretend like I was going up against him and figuring out ways to beat him. And I think, if kids can set goals and hold themselves accountable to it, the sky's the limit, because we have some special talent out in Arizona. And, it's up to guys like you, myself, and other leaders in the community to help extract their talent and get them, to the next level.
I think you need imagination to set goals in the first place, and you also need leaders like you sharing what those goals look like at different ages, because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
No one's going to think of having that idea that we think of the 5-4-3-2-1 and ripping a G, but I haven't ever heard it said like this. And so, Pat, thank you so much for sharing that. That's impactful for me, and I can imagine a lot of other people having this as a big takeaway. When we set goals, especially if we have high standards for ourselves, we have to face sacrifice. We have to face challenges, adversity, and we have to ask ourselves, do we really want to get there, and what are we willing to sacrifice?
Yeah.
Can you share some of the goals you've set for yourself, whether it's on the lacrosse field, personally, business-wise, whatever it may be, some of the sacrifices you had to make and how those decisions were made as well?
For sure. Well, first and foremost, like when I was growing up, I always wanted to be the best, like in whatever it was. And I know not everyone has that, maybe killer instinct or whatnot, but I remember in high school, I wanted to be the number one player in my recruiting class. And, for me, maybe some of the odds were up against myself. I'm one of the smallest players in the PLL. But I still wanted to be the best. And so for me, setting a goal of being the best and sacrifices that come along with that, which is, maybe not going to a high school party, maybe, getting an extra reps early in the morning or late reps in the evening, working on my offhand. I didn't have a great left hand. I remember, having an innate feeling in 6th and 7th grade that I wasn't very good. And I wanted to not be a quote unquote drill killer where, coach puts me into a drill and I can't do it because I can't catch and throw. And I remember, having that feeling of, being a weaker player and going home and being like, I'm going to work hard until, my weaknesses become my strengths. And, you talked about sacrifices. It's just, I remember in high school, like not going to some of the parties, not being maybe considered one of the quote unquote cool kids. Some people would call me a tryhard because I would be the first at practice and the last one off the field. you know, and in doing so, especially for these kids that are in, you know, middle school and high school, where there's the challenge of, you know, what crowd do I want to fit in? Do I want to be like, you know, the cool kids that are maybe on Friday nights, you know, doing some extracurricular activities, or do I want to be, you know, the best version of myself, which is gonna, you know, end up maybe not going out and making those sacrifices to be great. And you know, I come from a great family where, you know, playing sports was obviously special to our whole family. All my siblings ended up playing college lacrosse, but you know, it doesn't necessarily define us. And you know, I like to think, be just okay without sports, but you kind of have to look at it too. Like, I know it's not necessarily by all means or life or death, but you know, when you look at what you want out of whatever it is, business, sport, you know, music, and you want to be the best, you have to kind of look at it like, I'm willing to give up everything in order to accomplish my goal. And you know, I didn't become the number one player in the nation. I'm still not the number one player, but I'm still working just as hard. So it's a little tidbit.
I love that. And another thing that spoke to me right now is just family. You said you have two other siblings, is that right?
Yeah, I have an older brother and a younger sister.
Okay. And were you guys just playing lacrosse with each other nonstop, or what type of standards did they set and how they impact you? And
So
what all up to
yeah,
now?
a little bit of background. Both my parents are in the military, so that probably is where I get some of the structure. And I'm not perfect by any means, you know, but um, you know, the thing that my dad used to always tell us, and it's true, but he would always say, like, you know, if you're not gonna give your all into this, then we're not gonna play. And it wasn't because, you know, you know, just what it was is he didn't want to see us going through the motions. He didn't want to buy a lacrosse equipment, which we all know is expensive. He didn't want to pay for tournaments, which we all know is expensive, unless we were, one, in love with it, and two, you know, going to try to be the best that we could possibly be. So I love that out of him. And you know, I ended up quitting some sports because my love for it wasn't there. You know, I stopped playing basketball after 8th grade because I just didn't love it anymore. And you know, I stopped playing the trumpet because the trumpet, you know, I was cheating it. I wasn't practicing. And he was like, I'm not done paying for, you know, the instrument and the lessons. And I respect that. And then my siblings, I have an older brother. He played lacrosse at St. Joseph's, which is a Division I school in Philly. And my younger sister, who's only a year behind me, played lacrosse at Syracuse as well. So, you know, we're a competitive household. I can honestly say we played with each other, but it wasn't always fun. It was very, like, you know, everyone trying to one up each other. And for me, kind of always having an older brother and a younger sister, like, my brother is probably one of the hardest workers that I knew. He walked on at St. Joe's, which I respect out of him, because it wasn't easy. He played 1 year on varsity lacrosse and then became a Division I lacrosse player. And you know, the hours that he put in 10 times the amount of work that I did into the sport. And you know, it got him a roster spot. And then my sister, you know, having a younger sibling, I hated the fact that I knew someone was potentially outworking me, and that drove me crazy. So if I saw her on the wall, you know, sure enough, I would grab my lacrosse stick, and if she did 100 with her left hand, I had to do, you know, 150. It was just that kind of mentality growing up that we had in our household, where, you know, we're all super competitive in everything that we do, and we still are today. And I think that helped drive all of us become the best version of ourselves.
I love that. And it sounds like it's so supportive as well. You need that good competition, and as
Yeah.
long as you know that each of you are putting your best foot forward, that makes the family better at the end of the day. And I can only imagine how proud your parents are and what all your siblings are up to now. I
Yeah.
definitely know I plan to talk with you a little bit more about that maybe outside of this conversation. But one of the things that came up was the fact that lacrosse is a more expensive sport. There's gears, pads, everything else that we need. Sticks aren't cheap. And I know you made a pretty big and bold tweet earlier at the start of the PLL series. Can you share with the audience, if they don't know what's going on, a little bit about that tweet itself and then dive a little bit more into the organization?
For sure. So, I guess I'll just kind of backtrack. What sparked all of this is, kind of what's going on in our country with the death of George Floyd and the responses that we're getting. And, you know, I guess regardless, it doesn't really matter what side you lean on. But, for me, and looking at, what happened to George Floyd and the reactions that are going on, and I wanted to, one, it was a struggle to find my voice in it all. I, necessarily didn't feel comfortable stepping up and using my social media platform to try to express how I felt. But I think, finally I had the courage. And what I'm doing right now is I'm pledging a certain amount. I'm donating a certain amount for every ground ball that I pick up in this PLL Championship Series to Harlem Lacrosse. And for those that don't know about Harlem Lacrosse is a organization that uses the sport of lacrosse in low socioeconomic cities to help uplift these kids. And kind of what we talked about, it's using the sport of lacrosse to better yourselves, which is huge, and what I absolutely love. I mean, I think everyone who's ever played the sport, been around the sport, you've been a parent or friend, you can see how special the game is and how the relationships are super unique. I mean, I look at, Ryan, with you and Awatuki, and how close-knit of a community that is. Like, that's what the game of lacrosse is supposed to do. It's supposed to bring people together, form relationships. And I think for these kids in the Harlem Lacrosse organization, which it's not only in New York, it's branched out now to Philly, it's branched out now to California. There's a couple other programs like Harlem that are in Chicago and Baltimore, but it's, again, using the game to help these kids, to uplift them, to create an equal playing field that they can, again, use lacrosse or have lacrosse be the direct correlation for why they make it out of their communities and go off to college, or, are the first of their entire family to go off to college, first of their families to graduate high school. And for me, I just felt a connection. I was first introduced to the Harlem Lacrosse program my junior year at the University of Virginia. Harlem, which was founded by a UVA alum, came down. We met them as a team, and what was super unique was seeing your non-traditional lacrosse team, which is predominantly Caucasian, predominantly white. This team was filled with a ton of African Americans, a ton of Latino Americans, and it was just super cool to see. And I felt a special bond with them. I've had friends that have gone and worked with Harlem Lacrosse. They are directors that work in the program. So they are a fully staffed member in the school to help these kids on and off the field. And again, just due to kind of what's going on in our country and where, we are as a nation, my goal is to, one, bring awareness to Harlem Lacrosse and all the efforts that they're making to help create an equal playing field in the sport of lacrosse and in life, but also to kind of bring to light that, if you're looking to make a change or see that, maybe there's racial inequality or an uneven playing field, there's tangible changes that we can make. And that's what I'm doing with partnering with Harlem Lacrosse, is to hopefully make a tangible change instead of kind of pointing fingers at inner cities or pointing fingers towards certain communities, certain people of color. It's, hey, okay, let's recognize that there is an issue, and then let's figure out how we can, again, I keep using the word tangible, but concretely, have a cause and effect that we can be a part of. So I'm rocking my Harlem Lacrosse t-shirt today. I've been doing it all week. And I look forward to continuing to support them once the PLL season is over.
I absolutely love that, Pat, and the rationale behind it as well. Really, it hits home. It hits home to so many people because we're all in a giant world and community together. We have to be able to support one another, and if we're able to do that with something that we love, like lacrosse, and give people opportunities to actually be connected and share empathy for one another, I think that's amazing. And I when I saw that online, I just got the biggest smile on my face and my heart warmed. I thought of what else can I do? How else can I support? I don't know if there's anything that you can think of that I can do, but I just think about standing up for anyone and everyone that loves the game, no matter who you are, and being there for people. How can we make an impact moving forward?
So I think a few things is, and it's not all about necessarily money with Harlem, and I wanted that to make, and it's not about me either. When I first met with Harlem, it was, I want this to be me using a platform to help bring Harlem to light. So, maybe just resharing anything that they post, talking about Harlem. Again, there's other great initiatives too. There's Owls Lacrosse, Charm City. But I think something that I'm going to be looking forward to doing is, maybe just like a free clinic in Arizona for, anyone, but, maybe going into some of these tough background neighborhoods and trying to introduce the sport. And I know there's a ton of great people in Arizona that are, doing clinics, willing to help. Yeah, exactly. So, making this something that is a free clinic, and trying to partner either with a Boys and Girls Club, maybe even having Harlem, kind of show us the way on how to do it. But, I think there's a ton of opportunities that we in Arizona, and even across the country, I don't know who's watching this, but, can do to help, use the game of lacrosse to have such a positive impact on people.
I love that. I definitely imagine this is going to be something that spreads not only in Arizona where our communities are, but where lacrosse is. And I'm with you. Let me know when we're doing this clinic and I'm there, Pat. I'm helping, and I'm sure we can get a lot of other coaches and support and donations to start building it out in Phoenix as
Absolutely.
well. I remember my mom teaches elementary school, and I'd take all the extra sticks we could, go over into their neighborhoods, and no one's ever heard of lacrosse with most of these kids and families, and just the smiles on their face. I think that's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
One thing I want to ask before we wrap this up is, can you share a little bit more about P40, why you started up, how you started up, and what that looks like at this point as well?
Yeah. So, I'd assume most people are Arizona natives that are watching, or it's being broadcast to. But I moved to Arizona 3 years ago. I'm from Annapolis, Maryland, a lacrosse hotbed. And when I came to Arizona, truthfully, like for the first year that I lived out there, I didn't know that there was any lacrosse here. And Miles Jones, who's my teammate with the Redwoods, came out, and he was telling me he was doing like a youth clinic. And I showed up, and literally it was like something out of a movie where we were walking up the hill at Will Nolan Field, and I look out and there's a ton of kids playing lacrosse. And I'm like, where the heck has this been, like, since I moved here? Like, I didn't know anything about it. And so I kind of got engraved in the youth lacrosse scene. I live in Scottsdale, so just naturally I started assisting with Scottsdale United. And then, after that first year that I coached, I was really looking to kind of, again, help use my name, my resources, my background on giving back to the sport. And I launched P40 Lacrosse. First name starts with a P. The number I wear is 40. And my slogan or motto is motivate, inspire, and develop. And that's what I really care about. I mean, I do training sessions, sessions. I've gone and helped local high schools, but it's about motivating, inspiring, and developing. So motivating, getting these kids, again, to kind of feel the passion that I have for the sport, inspiring them to use the sport for good, to accomplish any goals that is, whether it's, again, we kind of talked about it, making your high school team, going off and playing college, and then developing them. And if they're truly passionate about being, the best version of themselves, it's, professional training, which, I'm fortunate enough to provide. And I think, the first high school person that I worked with out here, plays for Brophy, just accepted a Division I scholarship to Richmond University. So I was, obviously thrilled for him and his family, but to see, again, kind of the concrete hard work that, he's put in with myself. And I'm not going to take credit for everything because, there's a ton of people that have helped pave the way for him. But, his coaches, teachers, family members, but to see some of the hard work that he's worked with me to go Division I and be one of the few guys from Arizona to commit to the Division I level is awesome. And I'm proud of it. And I'm more excited for him and his family for the future, what the future holds.
Well, props to Xander. I think that's such a cool thing. Last question for you, Pat. What goals do you have written down right now, or which goals are you shooting for currently?
Yeah, so I'll just start with like the Redwoods because because we're in the playoff series, but number one goal is to win the championship. So we have our first game Tuesday, and then if we win, then we'll play Thursday, and if we win, we'll play on Saturday or Sunday. So the goal is to win the championship. I kind of really the other individual goal, I kind of hide it just because I like to focus more on the team, but is to lead all the defensive midfielders in ground balls. It's something that I take pride in. It's maybe a topic for another day, but I truly believe in kind of doing the little things and truly believe that everyone has a role. And I look at my role on the team is to provide a spark, and that's through picking up tough ground balls and getting the ball to the offense. Like I used to be an offensive midi in this league. They asked me to play defensive midi, and I'm happy to do it because I'm able to play and get paid for what I love to do. So I'll just get the ball to the guys that get paid to score goals, and I'm willing to accept my role on the team. So, I would say outside of that, I have a couple initiatives with P40 Lacrosse that I'm looking to develop in the fall and winter. But long-term goal is to make Arizona a hotbed that college coaches want to come recruit out here. And, there's the talent to do it. It's just, having, guys like you, myself, and other leaders in the community kind of coming together and really pushing these kids hard to be the best version of themselves, to use lacrosse, to fall in love with lacrosse, and to realize that there's a ton of opportunities through the game that, might not, necessarily be on the field, but the opportunities off the field that and the doors that are able to be opened up through relationships is unparalleled.
Awesome, Pat. Thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed all conversations with you, and this is no exception. You're a beacon of hope for Arizona and lacrosse in general, and just the grit, tenacity that I see day in and day out on the field, off the field. You're a truly magnificent person. I'm glad I get to call you a friend.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on here, man, and go Redwoods and go Arizona Lacrosse.
Now let's go Woods.
Yeah,
Take
that's
care.
right. All right. Have a good one.